They laughed at the broke father as he stood in the school's crowded courtyard, his worn-out shoes and faded jacket making him stand out like a sore thumb among the sea of wealthy parents. Would you defend him against their cruel whispers or pretend not to notice? Tell us in the comments. And if you love powerful, true stories of courage and redemption, subscribe now. More are coming every week. The autumn morning had started like any other for James Wilson. At 43, his once proud shoulders now carried the invisible weight of financial struggle and broken dreams. His calloused hands, evidence of the 3 jobs he worked to keep a roof over their heads, gently held his 8-year-old daughter Lily's small fingers as they walked the final blocks toward Westlake Elementary. What made this morning different wasn't the crisp September air or the golden leaves dancing across their path. It was the fact that today was Grandparents' and Special Persons Day at Lily's prestigious school, an institution where James could barely afford the tuition, sacrificing everything to give his daughter opportunities he never had. "Daddy, will they laugh at us again?" Lily whispered, her innocent eyes looking up at him with a mixture of worry and trust that broke his heart into 1,000 pieces. James squeezed her hand. "It doesn't matter what they think, sweetheart. What matters is that we have each other." But his reassuring words couldn't mask the knot forming in his stomach. Westlake Elementary served the children of doctors, lawyers, and business executives, not the daughter of a janitor who moonlighted as a gas station attendant and weekend security guard. James had managed to scrape together enough for the tuition by selling everything of value he owned, including his late wife's jewelry. Everything except her wedding ring, which he kept in a small velvet box for Lily when she grew older. They were just a block away from the school when it happened. A gleaming black limousine with tinted windows slowed beside them, its polished surface reflecting the morning sunlight. The luxury vehicle came to a stop, and the back window lowered with an electric hum. But no one in that crowded street was ready for what happened next. The wealthy parents already gathered at the school entrance turned to stare, their curious eyes soon narrowing with familiar judgment. James felt his face burning with shame, knowing what they must be thinking. What business did a man like him have with someone in a limousine? 3 years ago, life had been entirely different. James had been a successful architectural engineer at one of the city's most prestigious firms. He and his wife, Sarah, had lived comfortably in a beautiful house in the suburbs. Their life had seemed perfect until it wasn't. Sarah had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer, and within 6 months, she was gone. The medical bills had piled up, crushing James under their weight. Without his wife's income as a pediatric nurse and with his own mental health deteriorating from grief, James had missed important deadlines at work. Eventually, he was let go. One by one, the pillars of his former life crumbled. The house was foreclosed. His savings vanished. His credit score plummeted. But through it all, there was Lily, his precious daughter who had her mother's eyes and smile. For her, he would endure any hardship, any humiliation. James had promised Sarah on her deathbed that he would keep Lily in the same school, surrounded by the friends and teachers she loved. It was the last shred of stability in their broken world, and he was determined to honor that promise no matter the cost to his pride. "Mr. Wilson," called a voice from inside the limousine. "James Wilson?" The crowd of parents at the school entrance had grown silent, all eyes fixed on the strange scene unfolding. Some had their phones out, ready to capture whatever scandal might be brewing. The principal, Mrs. Harrington, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair and perpetually pursed lips, stepped forward from the crowd, her expression a mixture of concern and disapproval. James felt Lily's hand tighten around his fingers as he leaned down slightly to peer into the vehicle. The face that greeted him was one he hadn't seen in nearly 4 years. Maxwell Stone, the billionaire developer who had once been his biggest client. "Max?" James whispered, disbelief coloring his voice. The distinguished man with salt and pepper hair and intense blue eyes smiled warmly. "It's been too long, old friend. May I speak with you for a moment? Please, get in." James hesitated, looking down at Lily and then at the gathering crowd. "I'm taking my daughter to school. It's a special day, and I know exactly what day it is, Maxwell interrupted, his eyes twinkling with something James couldn't quite identify. That's why I'm here. Please, both of you, join me. Would you get into that limousine, trusting an old connection from your past life, or walk away to avoid further public scrutiny? Let us know in the comments. The whispers from the crowd grew louder. James could hear snippets of cruel speculation. Probably owes money to that man. Maybe he's being served with papers. How did someone like him ever afford tuition here? Mrs. Harrington was making her way toward them now, her heels clicking aggressively against the pavement. James knew that look. It was the same one she gave him whenever he asked for an extension on Lily's tuition payments. "Daddy?" Lily's voice trembled slightly. Making a split-second decision, James helped Lily into the limousine and climbed in after her. The door closed behind them, silencing the growing murmurs from outside. The interior was luxurious. Soft leather seats, polished wood panels, and the subtle scent of expensive cologne. Lily's eyes widened as she took it all in, her earlier anxiety temporarily forgotten in the face of such unexpected opulence. Maxwell Stone sat across from them, studying James with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. The billionaire had aged well in the years since they'd last met. Distinguished lines around his eyes, impeccably tailored suit, the confident posture of a man who commanded respect wherever he went. "You look like hell, James," Maxwell said finally, though there was no malice in his tone, only genuine concern. James managed a weak smile. "Life's been challenging." "So, I've heard." Maxwell glanced at Lily, his expression softening. "And this must be the famous Lily." "Your father used to show me pictures of you when you were just a baby." Lily, always shy around strangers, gave a small nod. "I've been looking for you for almost 2 years," Maxwell continued, turning his attention back to James. "You disappeared after Sarah's passing, changed your number, moved without forwarding your address. It's like you vanished into thin air." James looked down at his worn hands. "I didn't want charity, Max. I still don't." "Charity?" Maxwell's eyebrows shot up. "Is that what you think this is about?" He shook his head, a flash of genuine hurt crossing his features. "James, the Atherton Tower. Do you remember it?" How could James forget? The Atherton had been his crowning achievement as an architectural engineer, a revolutionary mixed-use building that combined sustainable living spaces with community-focused amenities. He had poured his heart and soul into the design, working closely with Maxwell's development company to bring the vision to life. "Of course I remember," James replied quietly. "It won the International Architecture Award last year," Maxwell said. "Your design, James. Your vision. The building has become a model for urban development across the country." James felt a strange tightness in his chest. He'd been so consumed by survival, by keeping a roof over Lily's head and food on their table, that he hadn't followed the project's completion. "I didn't know," he admitted. Maxwell leaned forward. "There's more. The success of the Atherton led to a series of similar projects. My company has been approached to develop similar buildings in 12 major cities across the country. The royalties from your original design, they've been accumulating in an account with your name on it." James stared at the billionaire, unable to process what he was hearing. "Royalties? But I signed away the rights when I left the firm." "They made it clear that all my work belonged to them." A slow, almost predatory smile spread across Maxwell's face. "Yes, that's what Davenport told you. But I never dealt with Davenport. I dealt with you, and our original contract, which I have kept safe all these years, specified that you retained intellectual property rights to the core design elements." He pulled a folder from a briefcase beside him and handed it to James. $3.7 million, James. That's what's waiting for you. Plus a job offer if you're interested. The limousine had been circling the block during their conversation, and now it pulled up directly in front of the school entrance, where the crowd of parents and teachers had grown even larger. "Why now?" James asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why today?" Maxwell's expression turned solemn. "Sarah contacted me before she passed away. She made me promise to look out for you both, but to give you time to grieve before I stepped in." I respected her wishes, but it took longer than expected to track you down. His eyes crinkled slightly. Today seemed appropriate. A day for special persons, isn't it? The limousine door opened, and Maxwell stepped out first, causing a ripple of recognition through the crowd. Several parents rushed forward, hands extending, eager to make a connection with one of the city's most influential businessmen. But Maxwell ignored them all, turning instead to offer his hand to James, who sat frozen in disbelief, the folder clutched in his trembling fingers. "It's your choice, James," Maxwell said quietly. "You can walk away from this, or you can show your daughter that sometimes life gives second chances to those who deserve the most." Outside, Mrs. Harrington had pushed her way to the front of the crowd, her expression a mixture of confusion and forced politeness as she recognized Maxwell Stone. "Mr. Stone, what an unexpected honor to have you at Westlake today. Are you here for our Grandparents and Special Persons Day?" Maxwell smiled politely but didn't answer her directly. Instead, he kept his hand extended toward James, waiting. Lily tugged at her father's sleeve. "Daddy, are we going inside?" James looked down at his daughter's hopeful face, then at the folder in his hands, and finally at Maxwell's outstretched hand. In that moment, he made his decision. With Lily's small hand in his left and the folder tucked under his arm, James took Maxwell's offered hand and stepped out of the limousine. The collective gasp from the crowd was audible. The same parents who had been whispering behind his back just minutes ago now stared in shock as James Wilson stood shoulder to shoulder with Maxwell Stone. "Mrs. Harrington," Maxwell addressed the principal with the easy confidence of a man used to commanding attention. "I hope you don't mind, but I'll be joining my dear friend James and his daughter Lily for today's event." James is the brilliant mind behind the Atherton Tower. Perhaps you've heard of it? It just won the Governor's Award for Urban Excellence last month. Mrs. Harrington's mouth opened and closed several times before she found her voice. Of course, Mr. Stone. We're delighted to have you both." The crowd parted like the Red Sea as Maxwell, James, and Lily walked toward the school entrance. James could feel the weight of every stare, hear the hushed whispers of disbelief, and the hurried reassessments happening all around him. "Mr. Wilson, I had no idea you were an architect," one mother said, stepping forward with an extended hand and a smile that hadn't been there minutes before. "James designed my company's headquarters," Maxwell replied before James could speak. "Brilliant man. We've been trying to get him back for years." As they walked through the corridors of Westlake Elementary, James felt as though he were moving through a dream. The same teachers who had regarded him with polite pity now nodded respectfully. Parents who had previously avoided eye contact now smiled eagerly. They reached Lily's classroom, where other children were already introducing their grandparents and special guests. Lily's teacher, Miss Bennett, a kind young woman who had always treated James with genuine respect regardless of his circumstances, welcomed them warmly. "Lily has been so excited about today," she said. "She's been telling everyone her daddy was coming." When it was Lily's turn to introduce her special person, she stood proudly before the class, her earlier shyness forgotten. "This is my daddy," she announced. "He builds beautiful buildings that help people have homes and places to be happy." James felt tears prickling at the corners of his eyes. Despite everything, the poverty, the struggle, the endless nights of worry, his daughter had never seen him as anything less than her hero. Maxwell Stone sat quietly in the back of the classroom, watching the scene unfold with a satisfied smile. He had kept his promise to Sarah, and in doing so, had perhaps changed the course of 2 lives forever. After the classroom presentations, there was a reception in the school gymnasium. James found himself surrounded by parents eager to speak with him, to include him in conversations from which he had previously been excluded. "You must think me terribly foolish," Mrs. Harrington said when she managed to get James alone for a moment. "I had no idea of your background." "My background hasn't changed, Mrs. Harrington," James replied quietly. "I'm still the same person I was this morning." She had the grace to look embarrassed, but quickly recovered. "Well, we're just so pleased that Lily continues to be part of our Westlake family, and if there's ever anything I can do—" James nodded politely and moved away, finding Maxwell by the refreshment table. "Vultures," Maxwell muttered, watching the parents who now hovered nearby, trying to catch their attention. "This is exactly why Sarah worried about you both." "I don't know how to thank you," James began, but Maxwell cut him off with a wave of his hand. "Don't thank me. This isn't charity, James. It's what you earned, what you deserve." He lowered his voice. "The job offer is real, by the way. Design director for my new sustainable housing division. The salary is substantial, and the hours are family-friendly. I remember how important that was to you." As the event came to a close, James and Lily stood with Maxwell at the school entrance. The same parents who had laughed at James that morning now waved goodbye with enthusiastic smiles, calling out invitations for play dates and dinner parties. "Ready to go home?" Maxwell asked. James looked down at Lily, then back at the school, and finally at the limousine waiting by the curb. "Actually, I think we'll walk," he said. "It's a beautiful day, and Lily and I have some important things to talk about." Maxwell nodded in understanding. "The documents are all in the folder. My number is there too. Call me tomorrow?" "I will," James promised. Then, on impulse, he hugged the older man. "Thank you for keeping your promise to Sarah." As the limousine pulled away, James took Lily's hand and began the walk home. The same route they had taken that morning, yet somehow entirely different. "Are we rich now, Daddy?" Lily asked after they had walked in comfortable silence for a while. James smiled down at her. "We have enough, sweetheart. And more importantly, we have choices now. Can we stay in our apartment? I like my room." Her innocent question reminded James that children often find security in the familiar, even when adults are eager for change. "We can stay as long as you want," he assured her. "Some things will change, but the important things will stay the same. Like how much I love you." As they turned the corner onto their street, James thought about the folder tucked safely under his arm, about Maxwell's job offer, and about the future that had suddenly opened up before them. But mostly, he thought about Sarah and how she had reached beyond death itself to ensure their daughter would be taken care of. The world often judges people by their appearance, their possessions, their status. But true character, the kind that inspires others to reach across time and circumstance to help, that's something money can't buy and hardship can't destroy. If this story moved you, subscribe now for more powerful stories every week, and click on the video on the screen to watch the next one with a twist so powerful you'll never forget it.